Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another video. So if you hadn't already gathered by the title down below, I'm going to be doing a story time video on my last surgery. Just because I thought, so many people have surgery every day. They've got upcoming surgeries that they know about, they might not know about it and get put in for like emergency surgery and things like that. So I thought I would do this video because I know when I knew I had surgery coming up, I was really nervous. I didn't know what to expect the first time around, and obviously not that you should, but I looked up on like videos and things about it just so I can try and get a little bit more familiar about it, and I couldn't really find anything, so I thought I would film something just so if anyone wants to know anything or things like that, then yeah. And obviously I just want to point out as well really quick before I start that I had two surgeries, but I'm going to talk about the last one just because it's more fresh in my mind. That this is obviously my personal story about it, so it doesn't mean that this is going to happen to someone. It might mean it does, it might mean it doesn't. It might be the exact same story, it might be a completely different story, but yeah, I just want to put it out there that this is my own personal story about it, so please don't go making assumptions that this is exactly what it is, but I'm going to try and add in the details that are necessary that you need to know, if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so the day that I found out about my surgery, I actually went to my GP's in the morning, I think. No, hold on. Here we go, I'm already getting crossed over. That's the first one. That's the first one, I think. The moment where it all began, that really sounds cheesy, but the first bit where it all started was I was actually in work, and I had started to get a lot of pain, and I'd only started the job 2 weeks in, so this wasn't ideal, and this was an ongoing problem anyway with my stomach. Well, it's more my lower stomach, so I had pain ongoing in the lower stomach anyway, all to do with gynae problems, and I started the job 2 weeks in. They were aware of what was going on, and I was taking painkillers, so it was all under control. And then the second week in, I went into the staff room and I just poured out crying because I was in so much agony despite taking painkillers at this point. I was so swollen around like the lower left corner, like my whole groin was swollen, the whole lower part of my stomach was swollen. It wasn't bloating, it was swelling, and I was in so much pain, and my mentor person came in and said, don't worry, just get yourself down to A&E. If you're in that much pain you can't be here, go down, because I work in a hospital. So she said, get yourself down to A&E, everything will be fine, I'll let the manager know and all that sort of stuff. So I went down to A&E and I was fast tracked in because I'd already had a lot of gynae issues anyway, and I'd been in and out of A&E with the gynae issues. So I was fast tracked down to gynae, and I hadn't had much luck with gynae anyway. They was always passing me off, just take painkillers, if it gets worse come back and such and such. They won't do scans because it's not severe enough for scans, in their opinion, and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I went down to gynae ambulatory is what they call it, so it's basically an A&E just for gynae problems. And gynae problems, if you don't know, it's all to do with like the reproductive system. And so I went down and they took an x-ray and they said, right, you're just constipated, that's basically all it is, we can't do anything. And because I'd suffered with this before and it was in my notes, they got hold of the surgeons, and basically they didn't want to know because there was nothing obstructing myself or anything like that. So they tried sending me home, and I was like, well, I'm not exactly happy with that. I can tell it's not constipation because it's all in the lower left corner of my stomach, it's not like all across or sort of high enough and things like that. I said, I'm not happy, but if that's what you're saying, I guess I've got to kind of go along with it. So they were getting ready to discharge me, and one of the gynaes that had seen me before, we'd had a couple of run-ins before as well, like with me and mum, but I won't get into that, it's another story in itself. So she decided to, for some reason, call round to the scan department, the ultrasound department, after saying that they had no appointments whatsoever, she rang them, and just as I was about to walk out the door, she said, "We've managed to get you an appointment for a scan. It's in a couple of hours time if you're happy to wait." I said, "That's absolutely fine." So I stayed at the hospital for a couple of hours. I had something to eat, and my scan, I think it was at 2:30. So my mum was on her lunch break. She works at the hospital as well, so I sat with her and her friend, and we just had a bit of lunch. My boyfriend then came as well, because obviously I didn't know what was going on, and I was on my own because mum couldn't come away, so I was getting a bit freaked out at this point. And normally I don't. Like, I could just feel there was something was just not right. I could feel it in myself, you know. I hadn't been in this much pain before. So anyway, I went down to have the scan, and when I was in there, she said, obviously I'm not 100% medically trained, but I know roughly what is it on these scans. And she said there's one of two things. She said, one, there's either a cyst that has started to leak and it's not making the picture very clear, and it's hiding itself. So she said that could be one. Or she said the second thing could be you could have an ovarian torsion, which basically means the ovary has started to twist. So by then I'm just freaking out because I knew there was something wrong. I had in my head they were going to send me home with constipation. What if this gets worse? What if it got worse? Blah de blah de blah. So I went back round, and one of the consultants, she was the one that actually said to me, "Right, we're sending you home. There's nothing wrong." She called me in. Me and my boyfriend sat down in the room with her, and she said, "I've looked at your scans, and basically I'm not happy to send you home because it could either be your ovaries twisting or there's a cyst, but we think it's more your ovary could be twisting." So I've thought, okay, it's great because now you're actually listening to me, but it's not great because you were going to send me home. Are you just, you know, obviously looking back at it now, I know she wasn't being funny, but at the time I felt like she was being funny, and I felt like she was being very sarcastic, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, you know, sort of thing, you knew there was something wrong, you know, and all that sort of thing, like trying to undermine me a little bit. But obviously looking back now, I know she wasn't, she was just doing her job. So anyway, she said, "I've spoken to the surgeons, they want to keep you in, and they want to operate on you tonight under emergency surgery." So I was like, oh, great, okay, I've had surgery before, I know what happens, but obviously this was a different situation to beforehand, and I was panicking, and I was like, oh my god, I don't, you know, I've just started this new job, I don't want to end up having a couple of weeks off, I don't know what's going on, what if my ovary is twisting, that's not good, anyway, and all that sort of thing. So they admitted me, and I was laying there. My dad then turned up, and I was taken down to the ward, and I was told, okay, we don't know exactly what time you're going to be having surgery, but it can be up to 10 o'clock tonight. And by this point it was about 3 o'clock. I was still sitting down in the gynae part. I was taken down at about 6 o'clock, I think, because they didn't have any beds until then, and I wasn't allowed to eat anything, because obviously going down for surgery you're not allowed to eat for, I think it's like, depending on what surgery, it's like 6 to 12 hours before you have it. So I'd last eaten at about 2 o'clock, so I was getting a bit irritable because I was also hungry. I'd been working all morning, I didn't really have a lot to eat, and obviously when you're on the go constantly you do get hungry. So I was hungry, tired, frustrated, upset, a bit worried, all of this in one. So when I got down to the ward, I saw the anaesthetist. They come down, just explained all the normal things. So they basically, anaesthetists sit in the surgery with you. They're the ones that basically put you to sleep, and when they put you to sleep, it's basically, they just put a mask over you, which is, I think if I remember rightly, it's just pure oxygen, just to help you, you know, carry on breathing. And the actual sedative they put in through an IV in your arm. It sounds really scary, but it's not. And I actually, my favourite part of having surgery is going to sleep, because it just feels amazing. So anyway, they lay you down, they put a mask over your face, they're talking to you while you're doing it, they say, okay, think something nice, or tell us about something that you're going to do, and halfway through you just fall asleep. It's not, you know, it's not discomforting, it's not uncomfortable, that's the word. It's not uncomfortable, it's not painful, it's not scary, it's not freaky, it's not, you know, panic feeling, anything like that. So they put me under, but that was actually the day after. So when the anaesthetist come down, he spoke to me, okay, you know, told me the risks, the pros, the cons, what they're going to be doing, all that sort of stuff. He said, okay, we don't know what time you're going to be going down, but we are aiming to get you in tonight. You will definitely be in tonight unless another emergency comes in that's more severe, basically. So it got to 9:30 and I still hadn't heard anything, and I'm starting to get like, okay, this is not going to happen tonight. I've got to lay here thinking about it all night, panicking, worrying, what if something else happens, what if it gets worse, and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, the nurse found out for me and an emergency twin cesarean came in, so I was bumped right down the list and I had surgery the following morning. So it was about 11:30, the porter came down for me, and by this point I was on my own. My dad had stayed with me until 10 o'clock because he wanted to just, you know, he wanted to make sure I was right because he didn't know what was going on either, so they were very nice in letting him stay. But then obviously the following morning I went down. At this point I was on my own and I was really freaking out because the first time I had surgery my mum was there, she was able to come down with me, and I'm not saying I would have had that again, but I had the support there beforehand and I had someone to talk to beforehand. But at this point I didn't, so I was freaking out. I was not in a lot of pain because I'd had a lot of painkillers throughout the night, but I went down, I was put to sleep, everything was fine. And then I woke up, which was interesting because the first time I woke up everything was, you know, it was daisy, it was, you know, I was in a daze, everything was blurry. I was like, what's going on? I'm just waking up, like I knew what had been going on. So when you come round from surgery they put you in recovery, and that's basically just another room, massive room, it's like another ward basically, and or for in my hospital it is, and it's like another ward with loads of separate beds, and basically just where the nurses just keep an eye on you while you're coming around, making sure everything's alright, making sure your obs are okay, making sure there's nothing that's gone wrong or nothing is going wrong still. So anyway, when I come round, as I was saying, it was very different to the first time. The first time I come round it was normal basically. I was fine, I was just tired, I was like, oh, what's going on sort of thing. Very drugged up still. I felt like I was floating. And I just felt like I just wanted to shut my eyes and go back to sleep, but it's like my body was trying to wake me up. So it's really weird. So anyway, this time round, all of that was okay, but for some unknown reason, I woke up in absolute hysterics. Like I was bawling my eyes out. The nurse came over to me and said, you know, everything's fine, you've just come out of surgery, you're coming round, everything's fine, don't worry, all that sort of stuff. But I just remember coming round and the first thing I remember was I was just crying, and I don't know why. I think subconsciously it's because I knew I was, again, frustrated because of what happened with the consultants the day before, and I was on my own and I didn't know what was going on, and I felt very sick this time around when I come around for some reason, and it was just a totally different experience to the first time round. And this is what I mean, every surgery is totally different to each other. You know, I'm obviously the same person, I'm just one person. I've had 2 surgeries which coming round the complete different stories, like one into the other. So the second time round, again, I wasn't in any pain, I wasn't in discomfort, well I was in a bit of discomfort, obviously you just had surgery, but I was being dosed out with painkillers, and yeah, I just remember my pillow was soaked. And I don't know, I must have been crying beforehand before properly waking up, but anyway. So after that I sort of dozed back off, I come back round, and as I come back round I was actually being wheeled back down to the ward, and by this point I was in a haze, I was trying to look around me, I thought someone was there, but obviously, like as in my mum or someone, but obviously they wasn't, and I knew they wasn't going to be before the surgery, but for some reason I just had in my mind that someone was going to be there. I got back down to the ward and again no one was there, so I was a bit upset, I was a bit, you know, taken back because I'd just gone through a whole surgery on my own, quite a big surgery of what I thought it was at first, and no one was there. Not that I'm saying, you know, that's a bad thing, nobody, mum was at work, my boyfriend was working, you know, my dad was at work and he works in London, so he travelled back, but yeah, so that was quite freaky. But anyway, so as I was slowly coming around, the more I was coming around, the more I realised, hold on a minute, no one is here, I'm fine, you know, all that sort of stuff. So the consultants that I had seen the day before, they were, I don't think they was happy a little bit, because when I was going down, they saw me going down and they just gave me a very funny look, and when I was back on the ward and they came to see me, they looked a bit like, sort of thing like, do we have to be here? Don't really want to be. I don't know if they were the ones that actually operated or not. I don't think they were. But they came to give me the news that my ovary was actually perfectly fine. It wasn't twisting, but instead I'd actually had a very, very large cyst that had started to leak. And normally every month, I think I've said this before, actually I probably haven't, it's probably in a video that I've tried to film before, but every month a woman gets a cyst when they're on their monthly, and they get cysts. It's very normal, everyone gets them. I've probably had them since the first day I started, and you just don't know. And the only time that it becomes unnormal is when you start getting pain, and it's, yeah, you just start getting pain, which is then when you know something must be going on, because cysts don't or shouldn't be giving you pain. And the cyst that I'd had cysts before. My first surgery, they thought I had appendicitis, but it was actually a chocolate cyst, what they call, which sounds gross. I'm sorry for eating chocolate right now, but the first operation I had, as I said, they thought it was appendicitis, but it wasn't. It was actually a cyst that had ruptured, and I had a lot of fluid in my right side of my pelvis from the cyst rupturing. And so I knew, so I've had cysts before. I've had cysts that have given me issues. I've had multiple scans throughout the year. I've had more than one cyst at a time, which isn't normal, which is then when they normally start testing you for what they call PCOS, polycystic ovaries, but I don't have that. It's just a case I suffer from really bad cysts. But by this point I was told that obviously, as I said, my ovary was fine, it wasn't twisting, it was a cyst. And the cyst, the size of the cyst that I have, I think normally the normal sizes are 1 to 5 millimeters. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but this one was 15 centimeters, so it was humongous. It was more than double the size of my ovary, and it started to leak. And if I had left that, what did they say? I think it was 2 to 3 more days, or 1 to 2. I'm not 100% sure, but up to 3 days. If I'd left that any longer, up to 3 days, that would have ruptured, and it could have been a completely different story. So when I woke up, I actually had a drain fitted, but I didn't realise that till about, I came back from surgery at about 2 o'clock, and I think my dad came at about 4 o'clock. He spoke to the nurse as he was coming in, and at this point I was taking little sips of water, I still wasn't eating, and I had this drain, and I didn't even realise. And it wasn't until, at this point, I was very, very, very tired. I wasn't as such dazy or hazy anymore, but I was still out of it. I was still very tired, still not 100% sure of my surroundings and that sort of thing. Whereas the surgery before, that had worn off within an hour, and I was fine. So again, it's very different. So I think I had more sedation this time than I did the time before, because of the reaction that I had this time around. But anyway, when my dad come along, he said, right, everything was fine. Basically just reiterated what the consultants had said. Like, they saw no endometrium, I think that's what they called it, which it turns out that is what I possibly could have now, which is annoying. But they said they couldn't see that, your ovaries were fine, everything was fine, other than they removed the cyst and that they had fitted a drain in. So I looked at him and I went, what do you mean they fitted a drain in? So I've lifted up my gown and I've just seen this drain coming out of me, which again sounds horrible, but apparently that's how much. It was 15 centimetres, so I think they said per centimetre is like 10 millilitres of fluid. So the cyst that I had was humongous and not normal, and that's why they had to put a drain in to be able to release it, to let it come out naturally rather than them taking it away, because they couldn't sorry, this sounds gross, but they couldn't burst the cyst, because otherwise that could have caused a lot more damage. So they had to just fit drain in to let it come away naturally. Sorry, there's a kerfuffle outside. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That turned more into my surgery time rather than giving information on surgery. But just to round everything up for those that want to know about surgery, so it's not scary at all. I had the perception of, you know, if you hear surgery and you get put to sleep, straight away that just sounds scary. You think the worst things, you don't think it's going to be a good thing, you don't think it's going to be a bad thing, you don't know where your head's at. But so they take you down from your ward, or they take you straight down from wherever you are or whatever your situation is, and they will lay you down. They will explain, an anaesthetist will already have spoken to you about everything that's going to happen, so they will talk about the pros, they will talk about the cons, they will talk about like risks, which they have to legally do. 90% of the time nothing serious ever happens unless there's something serious that is going on anyway. So yeah, they explain all of that to you. They say if you've got any questions, and if you do, obviously they answer them, and then they say, okay, we'll see you down there, so, and then they go. And then when you get taken down there, sometimes you'll have a different anaesthetist, but that's, you know, because either like they've gone on break, or they've gone on break, or because, you know, it's different shift, or all that sort of stuff. So then they'll lay you down, they will just chat to you for a bit while they start to put some medication through your IV, and yeah, basically while they're doing that, they're talking to you. They just ask you for your ID, so your name and date of birth, just to confirm it's you, and they will also ask you if you know the surgery that you're having done, and obviously if you're unsure or anything, you can ask some questions there before everything happens. So it's like a little room that you're in. It's like the anaesthetist's room, if that makes sense. There's a room, and then there's another set of double doors, which is where the surgery happens. They keep you in the room before when they're putting you to sleep. So what they will do, like I said, they will put some like painkillers and that through. I don't know why I'm doing that, you can't see. So they'll put like painkillers and that through your IV in your arm, and then they will go to tell you, right, this is what's going to happen now, we're going to put you to sleep now. So they get a mask, which I said earlier, I believe it's like just oxygen, pure oxygen, or it's something. They get you to lay down, they get you to tilt your throat back a little bit, just so it opens your airway up a lot more, so it can go down a lot easier. That's not a bad thing. They do that 90% of the time with everyone. In fact, I think it is just with everyone, full stop. And then they put the mask over you. They say, okay, just, you know, tell us, you know, you're going on holiday, tell us about, you know, your family, if you've got plans to do anything in the summer, or just all that sort of stuff. They'll say, get you to talk to you, or they'll get you to count down from 10, and all that sort of stuff. So then as you're laying there, they just put the mask over you, and then you're laying there, and they put the sedative through your IV drip, and you just slowly drift off to sleep, and it is the loveliest feeling. I can't say anything else other than I would happily have surgery again just to have that. Touch wood, I will never have to have surgery again, because obviously nobody wants to have surgery, and there are some people out there unfortunate enough to have surgery for certain things. But yeah, touch wood, I never have to have surgery again, but if I do, I won't necessarily mind. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then obviously after your surgery, you are then, as I said, put into recovery, which you then come round, and basically they don't move you back down to your ward until they can see that you're fully starting to, you know, like you're awake enough to be able to be moved back down. Sometimes sedative, as I said, my first surgery, I think it took like 1 to 2 hours to wear off. This time around it took about 3 to 4 hours. It just depends, I think, on how much they give you and how your body reacts to it. And as I said, every surgery, every single person is different. But I can reassure you, if anyone out there is having surgery, I've had 2. I am absolutely fine. I may possibly have to have another surgery coming up soon, but again, that's another story that hopefully I will film at some point, but I've been struggling to film that just because there's been so much information, and yeah, so I could have to have another surgery soon, which I'm not really looking forward to the idea of, but if it's going to solve the issues that are going on with me at the minute, I'm more than grateful and happy to have it done. But so that's my personal feeling. So if they were that scary, I wouldn't want to go and have a third one. But obviously people do find it scary. It is a scary thing. It's not necessarily a natural thing for your body to be put to sleep. But as I said, it's not scary. You have a little bit discomfort when you come round, but that's normal. That's completely fine. They will, you know, dose you up on a lot of painkillers, fluids, because you wouldn't have been drinking for a while, possibly antibiotics to make sure there's no infection. Yeah, so everything is normal in that sense, everything is fine. You might have a lot of wires across you, but that's fine as well. And yeah, it's not scary, it's not painful, it's quite relaxing in a weird way. But yeah, so I hope if anybody is having surgery, that I didn't waffle on too much and this video has helped you. I've given you sort of a story of mine and then just rounded it up at the end of what they actually do. But yeah, so I really hope you guys are well and that you don't have to have surgery and you are here just to be nosy. But if you are having surgery, then good luck. Everything will be absolutely fine. I can reassure you on that. As I said, I've had 2 and I'm absolutely fine, and I would have a third, which I possibly might have to. But yeah, so if you are unwell, then I'm sorry to hear that you're unwell. I hope you get better soon. But yeah, so if you do like this video and you think it is really informative, then share with your friends and family, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see lots more quirky, strange, random videos like this. And I shall see you in my next one.